thirdly, full sovereignty. So yes, it's great to be international and to connect to the world. I think it's a great idea. Ireland definitely wants to be connected to the world. We don't want to be like North Korea or something, right? But we can connect to the world through travel, through tourism, through trade agreements, through educational programs. One thing, for example, I think I would love to see is getting Irish school kids to go over to Quebec in Canada, French Canada, because they slip between French and English in like mid sentence, like they're all bilingual. And I hope that that is our future in Ireland. We're never letting go of English. We love English. It's great, you know. We have our own way of speaking English, but the the Irish, the Gaeilge, the Gaelic, this can come back. Like look at Wales, they brought theirs back. Like 20% of the population speaks it. Um, and we if the right circumstances are there, we can definitely bring Irish back. But like what exactly does that look like? It doesn't look like everyone speaking Irish and you know everyone suddenly being like they're from the 1950s either, you know. But so say bring people over to French Canada, that'd be a great way. You'll see how that works, you know. And and yeah, so things like that we can connect with the world. But politically and legally, I think we really want to make sure any of our relationships that they are as partners. So we are a member state of the European Union. We are members of this organization. We're not like servants, right? We're not like a it shouldn't be that we're trying to impress them and it's not like we're hanging around the cool kid. Brussels is this awesome cool guy who can do everything and has a sports car and seems to be really rich, and we're always hanging out trying to get close to Brussels. Oh man, you hear where Brussels is going on the weekend? Let's go, you know, see if we can get invited along. That's not how it's meant to be. It's meant to be like in a way there is no Brussels. It's just there are the member states, and we have our club. We're working together for shared interests. And so I think there needs to be a bit of a rebalancing, because I think if you look at the way the 2008 crisis was solved, quote unquote, although it was never really solved, it's just the can was kicked down the road and covered up by, you know, making interest rates zero or negative and, you know, just cheap money and just spending our way out of it. But the European Central Bank got much more power, and there was a huge centralization of power in the EU. And then you look at the COVID situation and like how that was dealt with. Look at the situation with migration now and the green, you know, all these green policies where the EU is pretty fiercely kind of sacrificing industry for the benefit of, you know, the planet. But meanwhile, China is like building a coal-fired power plant a week. And so Ireland can sacrifice all of our industry and all of our, but it's going to do nothing compared to China. So you have these sorts of things where it just seems like, and then when we raise these issues with Brussels, often it's kind of like it doesn't seem like it's very welcome sometimes. So I don't want to demonize Brussels and or the EU. And I think the way forward ideally is to reform our relationship with the EU. And you know, say avail of things like Denmark opting out of the migration pact like Denmark has, and just in general trying to reform the EU so it's more like a balanced organization, and it's not so top heavy, and like it's not the United States of Europe, you know. It's not meant to be that. That's not, you know, we have individual national cultures, national sovereignties. um, and one little solution for that might be just to flip the relationship of wherever EU and national law come to conflict. Currently the EU law triumphs. It overrules the national law. And but so if we could flip that where no national law overrides EU law, so that would create a situation where in Europe there would be less standardization of laws, but it would be um, preserving the democratic will of the members. And it would also incentivize Brussels to really communicate and with the, you know, run education campaigns in Ireland or wherever, in Hungary or whatever, saying this is why we want you to do the law like this, rather than just telling us to do it. So I think that's a simple but elegant solution that could long term maybe be a way to reform things. Ultimately, if it can't be reformed, we need to leave. But like any toxic relationship, you try to, you know, improve it. But then if the other partner is not willing to change, you need to leave. So, but that's, you know, big, big stuff for down the road. But this is full sovereignty. We don't want to give away to the WHO, the pandemic treaty, the right that they want to put through, the right to just control and declare lockdowns whenever they want. It's like that didn't go so well last time. Actually, they did the complete opposite of what they should have done, whereby it was all centralized, and this control of information flow, and um, in many cases the media, listening to what these big health authorities were saying, or governments, um, actually they were censoring minority voices who were saying, oh, actually I think that's not true, it's this. But then it turned out so many of those things were actually true, so there was actually misinformation coming from the trusted authorities. And so this just shows you really need a more decentralized approach, where you have the doctors, millions of doctors, kind of sharing information to solve problems, kind of in a more democratic, scientific, experimental way, where sharing information and what works, what doesn't, what can be repeated, what can't. And the same with like policy, health policy based on that. So that's just one example where, like, what do I mean by full sovereignty? I don't mean we pull away from the world, but I mean we lean into the world, but in a way where we are, not sacrificing our integrity, and we are, kind of making our ancestors proud, and they won't be turning in their graves for all that they sacrificed for us to have our freedom. So we need to maintain that balance.